Sony's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse has set the internet ablaze, with many claiming it's the best Spider-Man movie ever. While this may seem a bit hyperbolic, I'm here to say these claims are actually underselling the brilliance of this film. Now, I'm a biased party. In a different reality, I'm probably out there swinging webs around Brooklyn. I'm literally half black, half Puerto Rican, with parents that met in New York City. There is no superhero in the history of comics that I can relate to more. With that said, Across the Spider-Verse is the best comic book movie ever made, the best animated movie ever made, and is the most visually engaging project I've ever seen. When the original film in a franchise is well received, or even considered a classic by many, it puts a ton of pressure on the sequel's shoulders. We've seen that time and time again over the years. For every Terminator 2 or Captain America Winter Soldier, there's 10 Speed 2s or Highlander 2s hidden deep in your closet of things you'd like to forget. However, there's the rare occasion a sequel follows up a bona fide classic with an even better film. In my opinion, sequels like The Godfather Part 2 had an original that many today would argue is the greatest film of all time, Mad Max Fury Road, which had 2, maybe 3 depending on who you ask, highly iconic and impactful films prior to its 2015 release, and The Empire Strikes Back, which, do I even need to explain the impact of the film preceding it? These few, along with Across the Spider-Verse, are the only sequels I've seen to achieve this feat.
Do I, have web on my face? What's the deal?
Miles! He's right there! He's right there! Turn around!
I don't see anything, boss.
After 2 years of a relatively underwhelming lull in my comic book movie fandom, it's shocking that I even dared to come into this movie with high expectations. And for me, it's even more shocking this film not only met those expectations, but exceeded them. First, and most obviously, this movie is sexy as fuck. It contains 240 characters spanning 6 distinct universes with a different style of animation representing each universe, while simultaneously keeping each character's style consistent as they venture into other universes. It's objectively impressive and subjectively the coolest thing in existence since Keanu Reeves. If you know, you know. To reach that level of unanimous positivity seems lofty. However, over 1,000 people who worked on this project seemed up for the challenge. There's ingenious animation all throughout the entirety of the movie's runtime. From the distinct contrast of multiple visual styles in a single frame, to the high-quality, moving comic book feel many movies have tried to capture, but not as well as this, to the simple and obvious, yet incredible look of the colors in a scene changing with a character's mood. Very few films have left me completely in awe from start to finish like this one. On the first watch when it ended, I was snapped out of a trance-like state. It's like I was taken on a 2-hour, 20-minute visual roller coaster that was primed for much longer, but we stopped halfway. And unlike many others, I loved that. I'm a big, it's about the journey, not the ending guy. Endings that lack definitive resolutions and movie spoilers before seeing a movie for the first time usually don't bother me. No matter how you feel about the ending, the immersive and dynamic nature of the animation in this film deserves all of the accolades. It really makes Guillermo del Toro's Academy Award acceptance speech last year that much more poignant.
Thank you. Animation is cinema. Animation is not a genre. And animation is ready to be taken to the next step. We are all ready for it. Please help us. Keep animation in the conversation.
Animation is cinema. The stigma against adults taking the medium seriously has to end. In fact, even though there's still 6 months left in the year, I would be shocked if Across the Spider-Verse isn't at least in the conversation for a Best Picture nomination. Next up, we have the writing. Now, as a screenwriting major in my college days, it's hard to not appreciate the breath of fresh air that is Phil Lord and Chris Miller. They both have excellent comedic sensibilities that translate perfectly to the often comedic, yet serious themes and motifs inherent in the story of Miles. And trust me, after the last couple years of the MCU failing to balance this, with the exception of Guardians 3, I know achieving said balance is no easy feat.
Earth would be a fabulous place were it not for the ignorance and bigotry.
Okay.
And don't get me wrong, these guys aren't the sole reason this film is a grand slam. Dave Callahan also had a hand in the script, and there's 3 co-directors all bringing something different to the table. 2 of the 3 are first-time feature-length directors, and in my opinion, the general fluidity and pacing of the script allowed the rest of the creative team to flex their muscles. There were some jokes that really caught me off guard. The Lego sequence animated by a 14-year-old kid? Awesome. The joke about Spider-Man possibly being Dominican? Hilarious. Spider-Man getting canceled for endorsing baby powder? Got the biggest laugh in my theater. They not only had a great balance of compelling narrative beats and humor, they also handled the character development exquisitely. Gwen Stacy saw enough progress and backstory to justify her future spin-off without completely taking the lead role away from Miles. The Spot's villain origin planted in the first film sprouted into a great lesson for Miles to learn to not underestimate anyone. Miles' parents feel like genuine, relatable people that are much more than the typical caricature we're used to seeing with ethnically diverse characters. In the third act, where the Spot is heading for his father, it's nearly impossible to not care. Not only can we relate to the core idea of saving a loved one, but the foundation of relatability and universal dadisms Captain Jefferson conveys makes him much harder to possibly let go. Then there's the bold choice to make other spider beings, such as Spider-Man 2099 and Jessica Drew, essentially second-tier antagonists. With Miguel O'Hara possibly being more than meets the eye, we'll save that for a future video, I loved that the creators had the huevos to paint these characters with nuance. Between Multiverse of Madness, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Loki Season 1, No Way Home, The Flash TV show and movie, and What If Season 1, the concept of different realities or versions of a character is something everyone is now familiar with. Yet, none of those feel as well executed and satisfying from start to finish like Across the Spider-Verse. Lastly, we can't cover this film and not talk about the performances from the actors. Shameik Moore still sounds like the young, vibrant rising star I saw 7 years ago in the movie Dope.
Malcolm Adekambi is a geek. Malcolm lives with his single mother and has only one memory of his father.
While I'm disappointed I haven't seen more from him, hopefully the success of this franchise will open more live-action doors for him. On the other hand, Oscar Isaac sounded unrecognizable at times as Miguel O'Hara. Despite the Batman-esque brooding tone, he played off the more jovial characters quite nicely. Jason Schwartzman's quirky, clumsy, inexperienced criminal facade fit the narrative like a glove, and may be my favorite performance from him since Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Haley Steinfeld captures teen angst without it becoming overbearing. I like her as Gwen 1,000 times more than I liked her in the Hawkeye series.
Don't move! You do not want to see what this arrow does! Trust me!
Follow me!
Brian Tyree Henry continues to be the freaking chameleon of an actor he is. I actually forgot he played Officer Morales in the film until the credits rolled. And my favorite performance of them all easily goes to Daniel Kaluuya as Spider-Punk. I'm a sucker for all things British, but man, an anti-capitalist British Fred Hampton? I'm gonna need some more of him in Beyond the Spider-Verse, please and thank you. The comic style annotations were chef's kiss. I need more British slang explained to me. His fit looked fire, his art style may have been the most eye-catching of the six, and he exemplified the heart of his character from the comics better than anyone else with equal screen time. Even Miles of this franchise isn't really the Miles I've read in the comics, which is definitely for the better. Miles from the comics reads like a white guy wrote him. Which, hey, Brian, I'm appreciative you got the idea for this character watching an episode of Community, but just because you had a great idea doesn't mean it got executed properly. Whereas Miles from the films and video games feels like an amalgamation of people familiar with his background injecting the best of their personal knowledge and experience into his character. Now, across the board, or should I say, across the Spider-Verse, this film is one that will only get better with time and is a must-add to your at-home Blu-ray collection. I've been thinking a lot about a rating system for this channel, and I would love mine to be based on how things will age. For instance, a quote-unquote classic movie to me is timeless or without an expiration date, whereas a truly terrible movie reminds me of the stench of something rotten or expired far too long ago. So here's my 5-star rating system. The worst of the worst movies are Dead on Arrival and Remarkably Bad. Rotten Eggs will represent 0 to 1 out of 5 stars. Then for the 2 to 3 star range, mediocre films that you consume for the runtime and then immediately forget about, we'll call it How Old Is This category. For 4-star movies, which are really good films with a few flaws you will probably care less about over time, we'll call this category the Fine Wine category. For the 5 out of 5 top-tier, timeless pictures that will be burned into our memories, the category is Winnie the Pooh's Honey. Honey never expires, would survive a nuclear holocaust, and I like the idea of the holy grail for a filmmaker to be as highly cherished as honey was for Pooh. Right off the bat, the second film in this Spider-Verse franchise gets a strong 5 out of 5 Winnie the Pooh seal of approval. This rating shouldn't surprise you. This film is truly a work of art, and I believe it deserves the acclaim it's received thus far. I'm extremely excited for Beyond the Spider-Verse next year. Even if the release date gets pushed back again, I know this franchise is in great hands. I can't wait to see what's next for Miles and the rest of the Spider-Verse. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment. I've got a whole bunch of film-related topics in the vault and wouldn't want you guys to miss them. This is Just Alex Films. Adios.